Do it.
All right. Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. Today, I have a new friend, Stacey. She is a Canadian as well, and she is a visionary business and lifestyle coach. And Stacey believes in the transformative power of reframing outdated beliefs and narratives. With over 2 decades of empowering leaders, she challenges high achieving women to confront shoulds that bind them and uncover and embrace the deep wants of their souls. Her passion is really helping women to unlock their true wants, to reclaim their power, reshape their self image, and cultivate thriving relationships, starting with the most crucial one, the relationship to self. Welcome, Stacey.
Hey, thanks, Jill. So great to
Ah,
be here.
yeah. And it's funny, just before we hit record, we were talking about the speaking engagement that you just did down in the States. And you were really talking a lot about like acting as if and showing up with the energy. Can we start there? I want to know, like, what does it mean to just act as if?
Sure. I think there's been a big misconception around like act as if, and some people saying, well, what do you mean? Fake it till you make it.
Right.
And it's not about faking it. It's about realizing there's more to life than what we perceive through our senses. And many of us, I believe what keeps us stuck is continuing to view yourself from your present circumstances. So you'll look at your bank account and make a decision of whether or not you can do something. You'll look at your time, your schedule, and make a decision if you can fit it in based off of your present. But yet, like those things are what are keeping us stuck because it's our present self-image, attitude, paradigms, your habitual way of living that have created these today's results. So if we continue to make our decisions from our current results, we continue to get more of the same. So we keep hoping and wishing that something will change, but it only changes when we act as if, when we're acting from the goal and then embodying, well, how would I act if the money was in my account today? How would I act if I had that time? And what is it that's stopping me today from creating more and letting go of some of those beliefs to create space for the new beliefs that you would have with your goal achieved?
Yeah, and that's something that you talk a lot about is like reframing beliefs. What are some of the big
Mhm.
ones that come like with the clients you're working with? What are some of the big ones that you see over and over that you wish you could just fix for everybody?
Oh my gosh, including myself. I mean, I believe that the biggest one that I believe we lied for ourselves. All right. Like I love working with high achieving men and women who have gotten to a point through hard work that we've achieved these certain levels. And now we're in like, I speak to you Gen Xers, whether you like to call it Gen Xers or midlife, but we're kind of 35 plus, and at this place in time where it's like, is this as good as it gets? And what's gotten us to this point isn't going to take us from great to world class or that next thing. I think that people look at three levels of performance being low, medium, and high performers. But I think that there's one more step of performers, and that's that elite level, which most of us, if we've achieved some type of um, what we want in life, that we have to start to embody that mindset of to get to that next level. And so those beliefs, a lot of them are come down to worthiness. And is it like possible for me? And then I think what that leads us to is look at logically, well, I just don't have the money, I just don't have the time. Um, my kids need me, my husband needs me, my work needs me, everybody but myself. And that's where I really say the most important relationship we can have is with ourselves, because then we can cut through the bullshit and really get neutral. It's not about then like shitting on yourself or, guilt or shame, but come from a place of neutrality that says, hey, like, am I being as productive as I can? Am I actually spending time doing the things that I truly want? Or am I doing it because I'm honestly looking for somebody outside of myself to say that I'm good, that I'm worthy, that they appreciate me? When, it really needs to come from ourselves. So the limiting beliefs, there's tons, but some of them is really just around, is this available for me? And that I just want to scream out to people and say, if somebody else has done it, that's proof that it can. And there's no difference between you or them, except for the disciplines and the attitude, the image that they have. So what is it that you would need to believe about yourself in order to create it? And let's do it.
Yeah, I love that. What kind of tools do you use when you're helping your clients through these mindset shifts?
I don't think there's one magical tool. I mean, ultimately, so, I touched on the senses. I really believe that our senses, as far as what we hear, taste, smell, feel, are to experience life and to leverage in our visioning and in our meditations to discipline those senses to, like, when you're thinking of your future self, say, well, how would I show up? What would I look like? Who would be around me? What would I smell? What would I feel? But aside from that, then I think it's really important that we dig into the magic in our mind. And we were born with mental faculties, which are imagination, perception, intuition, will, reason, and memory. Now, everybody probably listening to this is familiar with those words, but do you understand what they truly mean in creating more? And so you asked me what the tools I use is. The first one is like tapping into those and really explaining to people, because we weren't taught how important our imagination is, that everything starts in our imagination first. Everything that we've seen on 3D world's been created twice. First on someone's screen of their mind, and then it's manifested into the world, good and bad, right? Like thoughts become things. Thoughts are our highest currency that we have. And so what is it that you're thinking that's bringing it out? So when it comes to tools, one's just an awareness of the magic and the power that we truly have, that we're tapped into infinity source and that we're all one, right? And so it's just the only difference is the beliefs we have about ourselves and then the disciplines that we hold ourselves to. So one is, writing down and getting clear with what it is that you want. And I really believe that that is the key to everything is what is it that you truly want? How is it that you want to live your life? And then with that, well, we do a number of things, but truthfully, a lot of writing, a lot of affirmations, visualizations, practices. But the most important thing is getting into action. You can think your way into confidence and you can think your way into different results, but unless you take action in it and create different philosophies, I really like to focus on people's beliefs as their philosophy, their creeds. So like, what are those underlying beliefs you have that are driving your results? So just bringing awareness to it and interrupting those patterns with ones that are more serving you into it. And like I said, there's only two ways to reframe, to reprogram our subconscious mind. One is through constant spaced repetition, which is the number one rule for learning is repetition. And the other one is emotional impacts. Now, emotional impacts, we can't really control them. And a lot of times they aren't for the best. So the ones that I really focus on the tools have an element of repetition. And that is why you would act as if you would see her now. Every morning you would wake up, you would, before you even get out of bed, say, I am conquering today. Today is the best day that I have. And, I am refusing to let my outside world impact how I view myself, and then really fall back in love with that obsession of a goal, and then focus on those 3 to 6 goal achieving activities that you have planned out to create more. So a long-winded answer in there, but a ton of stuff.
Yeah, there's so much to dive into there. It's like there's there's just so much value in having someone like you being able to lead us through our own muck, like you kind of hold our hand and lead the way and shine the flashlight, but we're the one responsible for doing the work as the client, as the person being coached. And I think that's sometimes something that people don't always understand if they're new to this, if they're just first time reaching out for some help or some coaching in their life. It's like they sometimes expect the answers to come from the coach when really the whole point is that they come from you with some guidance, because you as the coach, the tools to offer, but
Yeah.
only us as the client is able to make the change in our life. And like you said, it all comes back to really understanding what that change is that you actually want, because without that, you're just flopping around.
Well, and the want has to be so great, right? Because if not, why change?
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, 94 to 96% of what we get every day is unconscious, right? A lot of people say they think all day long. That's not true. It's mental activity is different than thinking. When you react to a situation, we've actually stopped thinking. We've just allowed our kind of our normal way of being to overpower,
Mhm.
right? Where when we can actually stop and reflect and come from a place of response, then we stop letting the outside world control us and we get back in control of ourselves. So a big part of what I do with clients is recognize, like, I don't think many of us would want to say that we're victims. But yet the reality is when we make excuses for ourselves or say that we can't, we are taking a victim mentality. So it is about increasing our awareness into why we do what we do and why we think what we think. And then exactly what you say, Jill, is getting, like, only you know what you want, but getting you to believe more in yourself that that's possible for you, getting you to trust yourself more, to realize that when you have that intuitive nudge, that is like, you know, a philosophy maybe that you don't have, but we want to incorporate, which is I act before I'm ready. I do it now. I don't hesitate. You know, where a lot of us would be like, I'm a procrastinator. Well, again, like you are what you say you are. So is it even some of the old stories that's holding you back? So I really come from it from a place of understanding what is that philosophy? What is that creed you want to live by? Because it's that creed that ultimately determines your standards, the disciplines that you'll put into action that determine your story, which is your identity, which is then your results. So a lot of us are more addicted to the story of our past than falling in love with a story of our future. So they say, well, Stacey, acting as if, you know, that is faking until you make it. Well, you're faking it, right? Like you're acting as if no, and that's not crazy. What if we act as if yes? So we don't even realize that we're actually acting as if all the time, but isn't in alignment with what it is that you truly want or who it is that you've currently identified as to this date. And that like doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that, but we can't get new results using the same model. So what is it that we need to create as a new identity that would actually be in alignment and magnetize more of those resources, the people, the ideas that we need to create our new goal, whatever that is for you, right? I can't tell you what your goal is, only you can.
Right. How did you
Yeah.
get into this type of thing? Like what was the pivotal point in your life that made you want to do this work? And can you walk us through like the trainings that you went through to learn all about this?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? When I reflect back, I mean, I've always been somebody that loves seeing the best in people. And, you know, it kind of sounds cheesy, but I mean, I started teaching swimming lessons at 14 years old. I was teaching aerobics by 16 and seeing people and motivating them in a new way. And, you know, that goal at that time was to swim or to get in better shape. And then when I went through business and you know this is where I instantly have a connection with you because I went to Ottawa U in school, and although I live in the West now, like I'm like loved Ottawa, um but in school then went into business and then people leadership, and it was always about bringing people up to be the best that they could for their work. So unconsciously I've been doing it my whole life, is helping people to be better leaders in their lives. But from really the pivot and understanding why my results got to be it or why I felt stuck at the time, which I did, was when I was about, you know, 39. I was married, two kids, 6 and 3, and I was unhappy in my relationship. Again, I got all the check marks that I thought that would like lead to this life of fulfillment. And I can't say that I wasn't fulfilled in certain areas, but consistently, no, there was some gaps. And I felt like I was getting to this place of honestly gossiping more, shopping more, drinking more wine, being distracted with things outside of myself, and as well as having a failing marriage. So my marriage ended. And I often share this because I want people to understand that there's things that we do in our lives that maybe were against some of our beliefs. And for me, I cheated on my husband. So I carried a ton of shame and guilt, thinking that I'm a cheater and a liar, which is not my identity, but were things that I did. And I wanted to understand why I did those things, because I just didn't ever think that I wouldn't have the courage to tell somebody that I didn't want to be in a situation anymore. I prided myself on being strong and courageous. And yet, when it came to really finding my own happiness in certain times, I leaned into what I thought would make others happy at times. And I think a lot of us do this. We get kind of this persona of making sure everybody around us is okay, but not taking care of who we are and what we want. And, if somebody would have told me at the time, well, maybe that I lacked some self-image or that I needed to work on my worthiness, I would have told them they're full of shit. I would have been like, are you kidding? I'm crushing it in the corporate world. I've got my kids. I'm doing all these things without the support of a husband. Like, what do you mean? But the truth is I didn't like those results. And our self-image sets the boundaries of what we'll achieve. And so I did need to go inside to level up who I am, what I want, get clarity on that, forgive myself for some of the decisions I made to create more in my life. And that's really when I dove into mindset. And because I loved people leadership so much, started to recognize, oh my gosh, this is what's missing in businesses. We got to stop teaching people the technical skills. They know the technical skills. The reason they don't execute it at work is culturally with the paradigms, as well as them understanding what are their existing beliefs about themselves that's stopping them from executing it. Like you talk time management. Time management goes back to your paradigms, your habitual way of living and thinking. Like we all know, block off your calendars, put your phone on silent, have your sprints or whatever the different ideas you can be to be more effective with your time management. But why don't you do it? Because there's a gap in your internal subconscious paradigms and self-image. And that's where we really need to adjust so that we close that gap between what we know and what we do. And I just found that as we get older, we acquire more knowledge, but knowledge is not power. It's what you do with that knowledge that is in the power. My paths crossed with Bob Proctor. And this was prior, obviously, to him passing. And he asked me a question. He said, what is it that you dream of? And at that time, I went instantly into sharing how my dream was to see my girls be really, um, happy, whole women that grow up, or girls that grow up to be women that are productive in society. And he said, well, that's a great goal for your kids, but what about you? And it was like kind of just like this smack that I was like, oh my gosh, what is the goal for me? Because I had achieved this certain level in corporate that if I just kept working at it, I got my pension, I knew how to retire, I knew how to do all my goals. And I didn't realize at the time that that's why I felt stuck. Because when we don't have a goal that's greater than who we are, what is more to express and expand about ourselves? And we're spiritual beings. The essence of us is for further expansion and growth. And so with that just led me to a whole new place. I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? I've always had a goal of being a consultant, of helping other companies, not just the one that I'm with, to drive performance-based cultures. And yet I was scared to do that because my belief system was that it was safer to stay where you're at and you should be happy. You're earning more money than most people. Like that's selfish for you to want more. All of these types of things that I could logic my way into staying there. But that's not what was like my soul was crying for. So when I kind of started to understand this, oh my gosh, the only thing that's stopping me from being from a consultant is me, then that really was time to take the lid off. And I dove full into learning about the mindset, not just through Bob Proctor and becoming a consultant with Proctor Gallagher and coaching through his programs, but many greats like Meltzer. I work with Arash today. I've done Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, been to 4 of his things. And I just find there's a beautiful intersection between theology and science as well. And honestly, that's kind of where it's got. So it's now about becoming a master in what I do and realizing that the more I understand and better able to communicate, the more value I can put out there. And the more value I put out there, then the greater the impact. And really that's my goal, is to help people just feel empowered and do more of what they want.
I love it. That's such a, it's like a humble, noble goal, but you get so much out of it from doing the work because you're growing as you're helping, right? It's this beautiful, it's just so mutually beneficial to everyone who crosses paths with you. So thank you for the work you do. It's amazing.
Oh, no. Thank you for the opportunity to share, because truthfully, we all have blind spots. And at every new level is another opportunity for us to remove our blind spots, right? So I'm just blessed to work with incredible people that help me too to take off those. Like, I always say, if you have a coach and they don't have a coach, I'd question the coach,
Right.
because we can't be giving advice for people to have you can do whatever you want, truthfully, but there's always a sense of more. And if someone is like, I think the greatest masters are the ones that say that they're beginners, because they are aware that there's so much more to learn and to go in greater detail. And this is something that is exactly that. Like, I mean, when you say mindset, I think mindset's thrown around so much. And we ask somebody, like, what does really mindset mean? And to me, what it means is a combination of your self-image, your attitude, which is basically how you think, feel, and act, and your self-image is how you think, feel, and act about you, that determines ultimately your standards and the disciplines, the things that you will adhere to creating more. But it all comes from what are those basic beliefs, that philosophy in life that you have. And so as I kind of grow in my own awareness, so does my philosophy, right? Like, I like to think like everything I touch turns to gold. That's my philosophy. I only accept and reject ideas from the goal achieved. Um, I'm continuously in upgrade mode, 1% better every day. Now, I may have done a better podcast interview, let's say yesterday than I did today, but the intention is there. The intention to make each day world class, the intention to make each day my masterpiece is there, the intention to learn. And so then at the end of the night, I think, I've even seen yours, you have some great morning routines, right? And I think, though, what's equally important is your evening routine, and reflecting back on your day to say, how did I do today on a scale of 1 to 5? Where was my attitude at? What was my self-image? People say that they're afraid of the fear. Well, fear comes from doubt, from not knowing. So, I would actually offer this as a tool. If you find yourself wanting to do something more and you have a doubt, you just tell yourself that's an old story. Because the person with your goal achieved wouldn't have that doubt. They would know it's okay. So it really is awareness of, like, do you even really buy into it? That's why I say we lie to ourselves a little bit sometimes. We say we're interested or committed. We say, I'm committed. We're committed up until it makes you uncomfortable. Then you question if it should be right. Well, we can't get more in our comfort zone. So from where to where, like, I think there's only 3 things we need to learn to get to that success: is where am I going? Where am I? And what is the price that I need to pay? There's an opportunity cost to everything to get it, and then answering the question, am I willing? And now that when you say yes to willing, means that work is outside of our comfort zone. So to embrace that discomfort. Another philosophy, I'm willing to fail at my future self, rather than, succeed at my present self. Because we know our greatest successes come from our biggest failures, that, losing is a part of winning. And the only time we won't win is if we stop. So persistence is key. And as we get bigger goals, we just have to develop that grit, awareness, and confidence in ourselves through action. Wow. There you go.
Wow, mic drop. It's just like your energy is so contagious. And I'm sitting here like, okay, if there's someone listening to this who is also feeling all jazzed up and really wants to like create more productivity and pleasure in their life, like no matter what area, where do they get started? Like, how can they reach out either to you or get started with simple tools at home? Like, what's the first thing you recommend if someone's here, like, and a fire just got lit under their ass?
I say, yes, call us, call and have a
Yeah.
chat. Like, I mean, just express it. And because who you express it to, because if people aren't in your circle that aren't growth minded and want to grow, they may mean the best for you. Our parents, the people that we love most often, are the ones that, want to protect us. So they'll say like, oh, really? And causes you to second guess. But what I would say is if you got a fire going, throw some extra wood on it, reach out to me even on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me anywhere. Raiseyourresults.ca is my website. But just get out there and start writing down right now. I think a lot of also people don't think that they have to write. They're like, oh, I thought of it. Well, why writing is so important is because writing causes thinking and thinking causes feeling and feeling causes action. And so as long as like it's in your mind, like write that down. Take some time even to take a deep breath, close your eyes and to visualize what it is that you want and recognize that that vision you have is a place. So this is where when we say interested to committed, when you make a committed decision, all in no matter what, it's not only just saying I'm all in, but it's accepting what it is that you want as already done. Like it's done. So that's where we can release the expectation of will it happen, will it not? No, it will, but now we have to couple it with discipline. Now we have to couple it with leveling up our standards, with acting as if that woman, that man that you want to be with the goal, because everything that we get comes from us. And, lately for me, what has helped with some of my clients and even myself is instead of seeing our goal as like up the staircase, like I think a lot of people get that vision of I got to take a step up and run to it, but that's still where you're striving for it. So you're separate from it. Where we want to come from a place of wholeness that says, I'm actually at the top of the stairs. Just because my physical world doesn't show that, I'm living from there. And when I live from there, then I am giving out that energetic, that currency that's going to attract the necessary resources, people, places, things to create it. And so for me, it's already like collapsing the time by bringing up the staircase to match it and then saying, now my job is to bring my 5D, what I see in my mind, to my 3D. And you'll know right away, like, did you wake up thinking more of why you can or can't? And if it's can't, then just like, focus there tomorrow and say, no, I'm going to like bulletproof my mind that anytime a doubt comes in or a reason why not, that I say, cancel, like, and literally like cancel, and then flip to what it is that you want. My goal on my phone goes off every 3 hours. Because again, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So you want to infiltrate it, like with the idea of what it is that you want. And then when you do that, then you start acting from that place that, like, honestly, it's kind of that Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can looking back. And my other favorite quote, obviously, is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So what is your dominant thinking? And unfortunately, they're not one for one. Like negative thoughts carry more power than the positive ones. So we've really got to like reinforce the I can. And yeah, I mean, I could go on. There's an equal and opposite to everything. So if you're going through shit right now, because I think there could be somebody that's listening, Jill, and saying like, I really want to believe this, but right now I can't even see through this. So like, help me. Like, where am I? And I would just say to you, the law of polarity states that there's an equal and opposite. There's a hot and cold and up and down and left and right. There's opposites to everything. So if you're going through a really challenging time right now and you focus only on the challenging, yes, more of that will come. But if you can adopt the belief, and it just takes a choice. I mean, you can just choose to believe it, that this is taking me to something really great because I know there's an equal opposite, and then look for the good. Look for the good. What we look for, we'll find, and then hold on to that, that it will change and move you around. It'll bring your energy up, and right away will take you into a different state, right? So for me, if it's a challenging time, I put on one of my favorite music. Like even I don't even know like really an action step. I mean, just like put on a music and dance for a second because it gets me out of that funk and out of the, oh, poor me, into like, huh, and then take a moment just to kind of write down, what are 3 things that I could do right now that is going to move me closer to my goal. And I promise you, just give yourself that time. It will come. Often we say prayer is us talking to God. Well, you tuning into your intuition is God talking to you. So what is it that you might be able to hear in quietness in the universe, whatever, if you don't believe in God, but what is it that is that sign for you? And then take action on it.
Hmm. Perfect. That's so perfect. I would love to see you speak on stage. It's been such a pleasure to have you here. I thank you so much for your time. I am going to make sure that everybody has access to all of your links and knows how to get in touch with you in the show notes. But is there anything that you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up for today?
First of all, thank you. I would love to see you. I mean, we will create a retreat. We're putting it out there now. It's
Totally.
happening in Banff. She was just out here. But really, what I want to leave people with a sense of is empowerment, of understanding that if you are tying yourself to some type of thought that is holding you back from creating more, just think of what's the opposite of that. Like I said, there's an opposite to everything. And you can sometimes suspend your disbelief. And if you don't have the belief in you right now, borrow some of mine. Like, borrow some of my belief in you, because I already see you at your goal. If someone tells me what their goal is, I see them there, and then we lean into that. And we just have to recognize that the only limits to what we can do are the limits that we choose to accept. So stop accepting the ones that don't help you anymore. Like, this really is about taking ownership. It's not about somebody else, it's about you. And only we can change this. And I think, especially, I know that you have a lot of mamas in your audience. And, coming from as a mama, like, I've been a single mama since my kids were 6 and 3, as I mentioned. They're now 16 and 13 for almost 10 years. And I could have chosen to say, I can't do these certain things because I have my girls or because they need me. But I really believe that you don't need anyone's permission but your own. And when you become true to you, you are the best example for the people that you love the most, for your kids, for your families, for your friends. And maintaining that vibration of being true to you is what's most important. And so I just want to encourage people here to fill your cup first, to live from overflow. Don't feel like you always have to be empty and give. And it isn't just about, and there's lots of people say, well, a hot bath isn't self-love. That can be a start. It can be a start. If you never take that time, let that be a start. But then couple that with, like, grabbing your journal and starting to tune into what it is that you want. Because from my experience, from my own self and from clients, is that it's just have a lack of clarity of what it is that they truly want. And a lot of times it's because they're afraid if they admit it, it would hurt the people that they love. But in doing so, I just want to put it as this, is that you're not showing up as the best for you. And that in itself is selfish, because you're denying the people that love you the most of your greatness. So embrace that, step into it, own it. Rise is my upcoming program. Actually, it's called, is kind of this rise and reveal about it. And if you're curious to know more about it, reach out.
Amazing. Thank you again so much.
Oh, thank you.